To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. So I had to move the solar panels today. Used to have them sitting right here. You might be able to see the brown spot where they were sitting. There's the garden. It's 11 o'clock right now, and it just now got out from underneath the shade of the trees. So I'm standing right here. So just maybe a half an hour ago, the solar panels finally got out of the shade. So I had to move them into a spot. I've been watching it for a few days, and this spot up here where I got them now has been staying sunny most of the day. About, I would say, 7 o'clock, the sun will start to shine on this spot right here, and it does pretty good all day long. Occasionally we got to move the solar panels. It just happens, you know, throughout the summer, this being south here and this being north. Since we've been here, the sun has kind of traversed, you know, each day a little bit further north. And then again, when summer hits, it'll start going back this way, back to the south. So that means we'll have to move the solar panels back over to where they were. It's not an easy task. Each panel weighs 16 pounds. We got 8 panels, so, you know, you're up over 100 pounds, and they're big. So Carolyn's got to come out here. Of course, she's got a bad back, so I got to really be careful. Now, I'm sure most people will say, you can't do that. I think it's interesting how many times I hear that phrase, you can't do that. I looked it up a long time ago, and back then, the most used word in the English language was the word no. And I'm really having a hard time believing that word is still the most used word in the English language. Because it's got to be can't. It has to be can't, because that's all I ever hear anymore. And if it's not, then at least the most popular sentence in the English language has to be, you can't do that. Because I must be the weirdest person on the planet, because I just cannot stand the phrase, you can't do that. It just eats at me. Because I believe you can do anything you set your mind to. You know, when I started my own business 20 years ago, 2001, oh, that's all I ever heard. When I resigned from my company, I turned in my notice, my 2 weeks notice. Of course, they wanted to know where you're going. Well, I'm going to start my own company. Well, what are you going to do? Yeah. Well, I'm going to be a consultant. I'm going to consult for manufacturing companies. You know how hard that's going to be? You can't do that. Not as a startup company. You got to have clients. You got to have this, got to have that. Business lasted 10 years. I made plenty of money to support my family, buy a house. The only reason I'm not still doing the business is because I didn't want to pull myself out of another recession. It wasn't that I couldn't. I didn't want to. I began to learn then that the society is really negative, and I have this can-do attitude, which makes me strange. I need to heat my little tiny camper with wood this year. Well, it wouldn't be advisable to put a wood stove inside the camper because it's such a tight space, there wouldn't be any place to put it. Well, okay, so most people would stop right there. You can't do that. It's too dangerous. Got to stop. You got to use propane. Or you know what I hear a lot about when it comes to winter? You're just going to have to buy yourself an electric blanket. Well, I'm a human being. I'd like to have heat like everybody else. So what do? Oh, I can do that. Yeah, I know how to do that. I'll just build myself an outdoor wood furnace or heat exchanger. And all you got to do is look it up online. Wood furnace is a thing. An outdoor wood furnace is a thing. So all you got to do is just think about it. Well, if they can build them, what would be so hard about making my own? When I decided to become a nomad, gave my landlord my 30-day notice or whatever it was, I don't remember. And he comes over, wants to know what kind of things need to be worked on. And he says, so where are you guys going? I said, well, we're going to go travel the country in a camper. And of course, he saw the pop-up camper outside. He said, in that pop-up camper? Yeah. You can't do that. Well, I mean, we did. We did it until someone burned the camper down. Well, then after the camper was burned down, everybody wanted me to buy a new camper. Go out and buy one. You gotta buy. And I didn't want to buy one. I didn't want a camper that I would have to leave behind anymore. I guess I had a little bit of post-traumatic stress. So that meant I wanted the camper attached to my truck. Well, my truck is for 4-cylinder. So that I couldn't buy a truck camper. It would have been too heavy. So I needed something light. So I built a truck camper for 250 pounds. Cost $800. Of course, my channel was very popular at that moment because my camper was just burned down, so that must have trended or something, and everybody was telling me, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that, it's going to blow off. I remember one guy said, I built one just like it, which I found very odd. Really? You built one just like mine, huh? That's funny because I haven't told anybody how I built mine at all. So how did he know how I built mine? And he says, first time it rains, it's going to fly right off just like mine did. I had it on the truck for 2 years. We traveled from Florida to South Dakota to Arizona and back to Texas and just all over a large part of the country. It never flew off. So I don't know how I can't do something when I did it. It's so strange to me. It's strange how he built one just like mine and it flew off and mine didn't. A year later, I put coroplast around the camper. As I was putting it on, somebody says, you can't put coroplast around it. The first time you hit a bug, it's going to go right through the camper. Well, I actually hit a bird. There was actually a bloody streak, unfortunately, going up the cab over, and I was concerned. Oh, the bird might have actually broke the coroplast. Went outside, looked at it. It was perfectly fine. Here we are, we're worried about bugs putting holes in my coroplast when a bird hit it and it didn't break. So again, I must be strange because I say you can do things and then other people say you can't do things. And since the majority of the people I talk to say you can't do it, then how is it that everything worked for me? I'm the luckiest person in the world when it comes to just doing things. I'm just lucky, I guess. Then, of course, we bought this property, and there was a lot of people telling me we couldn't do it. I mean, it was all over the spectrum. In almost every video I made, somebody or multiple people, a majority of the people were saying you can't do it. You just can't do it. You can't live off-grid on 1.5 acres. You can't use an old well. You can't use a well pump. You can't put a well pump into the IBC tank. The list was endless on the things you couldn't do. Can't build a tiny house on the back of a trailer frame. This is the floor to our tiny house. Code enforcement isn't going to let you. And I kept arguing, you can. You just got to do research. You got to figure it out. You got to learn how to do it. You got to learn. It just now is starting to tone down on you can't live off grid on 1.5 acres living in a tiny house. I'm not in cuffs yet, so apparently you can do it, and they're starting to learn. I guess he was right again. So I told you a while back that there's a used appliance dealer just up the hill from us. He's literally our neighbor. We can walk over to his business. And I wanted to buy an electric stove. And what I was going to do was I was going to build an outdoor wood oven where we can slide out that bottom drawer and put wood in there. Put bricks around the oven, the whole thing to insulate it. And then we put wood in there, catch it on fire. We'd have a nice little oven. Now the thing is I've seen this many times on YouTube. There's this one YouTuber, he's got a whole line of outdoor cooking utensils. He used an old little convection oven or something, and he kind of turned it into a microwave. He's got an outdoor oven, and it's all on wood, all of it. So I know you can do it. Even on these modern stoves, you can do it. And so I went up there and I said, can I get one of your stoves I want to buy? How much are they? I don't want one that's working, just one of those that are sitting outside. And his first question was, what do you want it for? Well, it's not illegal to buy a stove. I don't know if I need to ask permission to buy a stove. I don't know, what permits I need to buy a stove. What government agency I need to buy. Does he have to, fill out paperwork and send it to the FBI? What do I need a stove for? Well, I'm wanting to build an outdoor wood oven. What's that? Well, so I went through the whole scenario. I want to be able to pull out the bottom drawer, put wood in it, and heat it up. Then I can have an oven. You can't do that. I said, yes, sir, you can, because I've been researching this for 15 years. I know people who have one. Well, I don't think it's very safe. And I'm thinking, what in the world could possibly go wrong with throwing an old oven in a flame of fire, a big bonfire? Is it going to explode? I mean, it's an electric oven. The only thing it might do is just fall apart. Who cares? I'm wanting to hand you cash in exchange for an old appliance that you have sitting out front that you're probably never going to touch anyways. Well, I'm not going to sell it to you. You can't do that. It's unsafe. So here we are. My neighbors are now telling me you can't do something, and I'm willing to hand them money. The world has turned into you can't. And that, I think, is what is happening to our country is we've decided that you can't do anything unless you ask permission from the government or you hire a licensed person to come out and do it the way government says you have to do it. That's the only couple ways you can do it. I really think that you have to think outside the box, and you got to stop listening to folks that say you can't do it. And more importantly, stop saying you can't do it. You can do it. I hope I inspire you to change your word from can't to can. Thanks for watching.